So good morning. This is Asha Ayala. I'm the WorkReady Program Director with the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce, here with Chef Earl Frederick of Clark College. I will be honest, I don't see any attendees yet, but that's okay. We'll give it a few more minutes. And Earl, if we don't, we're going to go ahead with the program, and that way we can record it and people can watch it later, because I do push these out to our educational folks, and they have let me know that even if they don't watch it live, they do watch it later with their students. And then again, we'll include your contact info so that way they can connect with you if they have any questions about the program or the college. Does that work for you?
Sounds good.
Perfect. We'll give it just a couple more minutes.
All right.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, good morning. My name is Asha Aiello, and I'm the Program Director for the WorkReady program at the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce. I will say, please forgive me, in this area of Zoom, we are all working from home, and the people next to us have decided that the home remodel is exactly what they should be doing in the middle of the day. So if you do hear any excess noise in the background, please forgive it. It is my neighbors hammering away on their new roof. Again, I'm here with Chef Earl Frederick of the McClaskey Culinary Institute at Clark College. He's been kind enough to do a previous culinary with some basic exploration. We'll dive a little bit more into that today. But first, a little bit about Earl's background. Professor Earl Frederick has over 15 years of experience as an executive chef, culinary arts instructor, kitchen manager, and catering chef. He graduated from Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. Also pursued a degree in business management from Warner Pacific College in Portland, Oregon. That background, with its variety of experience, has led to chef positions with Walt Disney, Club Med, Nike, and Intel. Chef Frederick has been certified by the American Culinary Federation and is a certified ServSafe instructor and proctor. He's also co-founder of the Portland Kitchen, a free program that taught culinary skills, social skills, and healthy disciplines to teens. Earl, when we go through the questions today, I think I'll ask you a little bit more about ServSafe and some of the things that are, I remember the students got certified in when we were at Job Corps together, but I know that's something that you're very proud of and a program that you run there. So we'll dive a little bit into that. But I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about how you got into the culinary field.
All right. Well, thanks again, Asha, for inviting me here. Yeah, as far as myself getting in the culinary field, I started out cooking at a very early age. My grandmother was a sharecropper from North Carolina, and I used to be snapping beans and tricking corn and all that good stuff in the summertime, while all my other friends are having fun. Then I get back into the first day of school and talk about our summers, and I thought it was normal. And they're like, "You crazy? You was working this whole summer?" So yeah, it's just one of the things that was instilled into me. And then fast forward to when I get to high school, I didn't really have much direction at that point. Never thought about college. And then I had a talk from a guidance counselor. It was like, "Hey, you can either follow your friends or you could go to this vocational program." I was just like, "Okay, I'll go to this vocational program and probably, be there for a month or whatever and come back." But I had a great instructor that saw something in me, and pretty much that's the first time I realized that college was actually attainable. It was like, it's not the cost involved, it's like how bad you want to get there. So there was a lot of things that he taught me, and I ended up getting a bunch of scholarships to go to Johnson & Wales, and yeah, the rest is history. It was just one of the things that once I started connecting the dots and started hearing all of this French technology, terms and everything like that, like a roux and a velouté sauce, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just a chicken gravy right there my grandma made. So just relating that stuff in that class, it just really sparked the interest for me, and got me to where I'm at today.
I have to laugh. I used to be intimidated by those terms. Even after working with you, I would be intimidated by those terms. And now I can actually successfully say I have made a roux. It took me a couple of years to figure out consistency and stirring. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where you realize that the things you always thought were really complicated actually are, you relate it in the real world to something you've done every day. And all of a sudden it seems not all that complicated when it's like, oh, that's a chicken gravy or that's whatever. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. So you talked a little bit about your career path, where you got to where you are, and how you got motivated. So, but what motivates you about the culinary industry? So you've talked about what motivated you to get into it. What motivated you to make it a lifelong career?
Well, basically it's food. I love to eat, and I love the communal feel that you get. Food to me, it breaks down barriers. If you're hungry, what I'm saying, you put a plate of food in somebody's presence, they're gonna be like, okay, they're gonna be accepting towards that. So it doesn't matter. It crosses over, race, religion, creed, all of that stuff. So it's about, coming together to me. So I used to use that as a common denominator, common bond, math, English, math, music is all universal. So I put that in the same realm as food. So yeah, just like making good food and talking about it and getting passionate about it. That's kind of where it just draws me in. And also the fast-paced environment of a restaurant. That's something that really gets me going. Because with an athletic background, I play college sports. So can't play them anymore, but at the same time, I can still keep up with the students in my kitchen. I can still run just as fast as them. Got 20,000 square feet. So I get my 10,000 steps in about, 3 hours. It's just one of them things. So yeah, just a fast-paced environment, but also number one is community, building community.
I think I shared last time, but I'll share it again. It's worth it that when I used to work at the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, food really didn't matter what language you spoke, and they spoke all of them. We had people there from literally all over the world. But man, when you would get together in the break room, and there was inevitably always food left over, if it was somebody's birthday, if it was an important cultural holiday, you would walk in at any given time, there was food on the break room table. And again, pre-COVID, that people would have brought stuff in that was from their, and I haven't tried more amazing food besides yours in that realm. It was really, even if you could barely speak each other's languages, the communication of just, this is good, and asking, what went into it, and learning about the dish itself went a long way to just breaking down. There weren't many barriers there, but it definitely went a long way in getting to know other people if you couldn't think of anything that was in common right off the top of your head. So that's a great, especially in today's world, I think a great way to think about it. You don't have to have a lot of stuff in common to definitely agree that food is good.
Exactly.
What kind of education do you need to get started?
Well, the culinary arts industry, restaurants in general, I hate when they say it's just basic education. It's way more than that, But yeah, you can start off with, GED. I know some people that even graduate high school that, actually gets into a restaurant. I would say the main thing is like finding a mentor, or finding somebody that's already in that industry, or any, professional that you can go ahead and follow. But yeah, I would definitely say, contrary to what most high school counselors say, yeah, you definitely need to know math. Like I remember my guidance counselor was like, yeah, you want to go, you're not very good at math, go to culinary arts. And that's just the dumbest thing you can say, because you got to go ahead and convert recipes. You got to go ahead and manage, budgets. So yeah, a good background in math is something that is very important. Like I said, I wasn't really good at math in high school, but when I actually see the products, there's a little thing called EP and AP weight in culinary arts. So it means as purchased and then the edible portion. So for example, if I go ahead and have a whole watermelon, I carve that watermelon. First, I'm going to weigh that whole thing. But then I'm going to go ahead and carve that watermelon and make it so it's edible for everybody. Now I got to go ahead and weigh the loss, the rind, or I got to figure out what to do with it. So once again, just those applications of math and knowing how to go ahead and make money, because the margins in this industry is very thin. So I would definitely say work on the math, but once again, it's about making it more attainable, more visual, I would say.
That was hammered home to me the first time I was able to bring home my own venison, and the hanging weight versus the weight that we received. And it sounds really great when you talk about the hanging weight of a black-tailed deer, and then when you get your box of meat we ended up processing future ones ourselves. And I was like, wait, but wait, I started at 100 pounds and I've got how much? And then I think another thing I heard you mention there was budget. So if you're running a restaurant or even just a kitchen, right? Knowing how much I remember back during the time we worked at Job Corps, really stretching that dollar was your peak to the students, I believe, was making sure that you knew what you were purchasing and how far that was going to go, right, in your restaurant, in your kitchen, so that you are maximizing not only your profit, but ultimately like the value of the food.
Oh, absolutely. There's a little thing called I love it. It's called the make or buy analysis. So a chef is going to use it as far as a labor tool. So is it going to be more cost effective for me to go ahead and pay somebody $17 an hour to cut a 50-pound bag of onions that's going to take them 2 hours? Or would it be more cost effective to already buy the already sliced onions and have that labor allocated to some other place? Once again, there's a lot of juggling going on, a lot of things you got to go ahead and think on the fly and think on your feet as a chef.
Well, I think one thing I'm pulling out of this too, that again, we didn't dive as much into last time, is simply that being a chef is, I think what you alluded to, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, you've got a basic education, you can go into culinary arts. It's not about turning students away from it. It's just knowing that it can be very robust and very exciting, but it's also a lot at once. You've got to know your math. You've got to be able to do well under pressure. You've got to make decisions that affect you and your employees if you're going to be in that business as well. So what options are there to get started? We've talked about the education side. So say you come out and you've got a brand new shiny high school diploma and you're looking to work in the culinary industry. Where would you start?
Well, it would depend on what field you wanted to get into. I always say there's a term in the industry called a stage. So it's basically a working interview. So what I would do is if I'm interested in a place, the first thing I would do, and I did this in college when I was in culinary school, is I would go to, a fine dining restaurant. And granted, college student, I have a lot of money. So what I would do is post up towards the back where I can get a good view of the kitchen and where all the food was coming out. And I will order a salad or a soup, and kind of have my books there, whatever the case is. So, there I said, okay, well, he's not going to order a lot, but that gave me a good view of like, is this a place where I want to work? So yeah, just one of them things, TV does a great job of making it look glamorous. But once again, you won't know until you actually get into this. So yeah, I would just go ahead and any restaurant that you're interested in, they should be more than willing to give you a start, to give you that opportunity to go ahead and have a working interview. So that's a good way to do it. Another direction that I always steer my students into now, being that, with the COVID area and everything, you see all these restaurants closing, is think about sustainability, think about a career. What can you do? So me, myself, business dining, that came after, I left Job Corps, after teaching. And I'm like, what can I do that's going to broaden my horizons, but also get me benefits? And I was looking at that benefits package, where a lot of people don't. They look at the number of or the pay rate that you're going to get. But if you don't have benefits and you get sick, you could be paying that for a long time. That's kind of why it's good to seek out these other entities that offer these benefits and offers you a quality of life. When I worked at Intel, I didn't work weekends, so it was just one of them things. That's a trade-off. I'm not working weekends. So I have more time to myself. I'm not stressed out. So once again, it's not those days of working, 80-hour days in the kitchen. You can still do that, but it's going to burn you out really quick. And I know a lot of people, when you get burnt out of this industry, they don't want anything to do with it anymore. So it's about thinking of the long term. So yeah, think about what you want to do, but just don't ever think that the benefits are something that don't look down on it.
I think you had talked a little bit last time about Nike as well, doing a variety of different things and, working on the Nike campus. And it's not like you're just sitting there behind a, buffet line. There's catering, there's a variety of different jobs. But again, I think you had mentioned that there's much like the business dining, there's a lot of different big corporations where you're doing a whole lot. You have the potential to do a bunch of different things, correct? And then you've got the pay, the benefits, and sometimes exposure to other opportunities. I know that I talked to a gentleman he used to work from at POIC. He did their food manufacturing and technology.
Okay.
And so one of the things he discussed was, the machines that you use, somebody's got to work on those. And they also have to know, not to mention what to work on, but what it actually is supposed to look like when the finished product is, right? So if I put pasta in one end and it's supposed to look like this on the other end, is that correct? And not just like, hey, it's fixed. And you're like, yeah, well, now it makes ice cream and it's supposed to make pasta. Like those are two different things. And so it's an extreme example and a silly one, but I do know that was is that a division of culinary as well? Is that a different school that you would go to look at that kind of stuff?
Oh no, basically, I'll just put a plug with McClaskey Culinary Institute. You know, we teach you the basics, but also being that all the instructors have all different types of backgrounds, you know, you're gonna get those nuggets of information. I'll be like, oh, I never thought about that. For example, we're working on a partnership with Safeway and Albertsons right now. They got 141 stores, you know, within the Pacific Northwest region. So it's just one of them things that not a lot of culinary people, you know, going to culinary school is thinking about a supermarket, for example. But what I'm saying is supermarkets are essential right now. They're open. You know, you're still having, you know, a job, you're getting benefits. And once again, there's 141 stores. So there's opportunity around this whole area. So I presented that to my students that never thought about that. And once again, we're talking about unions involved. They have a journeyman meat cutter program that a lot of my students have opened their eyes because I'm like, yeah, you can make like $32 an hour as a meat cutter. They're like, what? And you know, you can go ahead and still practice culinary arts, but you're doing something that still is keeping you in that vein of the hospitality industry, but it's not going to burn you out, so to speak, of working in a hot kitchen all the time. So yeah, there's plenty of different avenues, food stylists, produce artists. So think about when you go to the supermarket, you see all the produce that's lined up. Yeah, that's actually in the vein of culinary arts. You got to know what that apple looks like. You got to know how the lights shine on it, you know, like a food stylist. So there's many different opportunities available now. It's just a matter of you seeking it out. And that's kind of where we come from in giving you that knowledge to go ahead and get it.
Woof, I could not live without our butcher. I mean, we butcher our own, but it's definitely, there's a point where when I drop it off, and I mean, of course, when I talk about a butcher, I'm looking at White's Country Meats or Gartner's, who I will live and die by, the meeting place, those kinds of places that are, you know, they're specialty, but they're not. And I'll tell you that during the pandemic, people were lined up literally around that building 2 or 3 times at White's because it was fresh, somewhat, you know, sometimes organic, sometimes not, but it was meat that they knew where it came from. It was meat that they trusted people, you know, the people behind the counter, they trusted that. And so it's, you know, I drove from Beaverton to Gresham to drop off meat there. So that, and then thinking about the food stylists, you know, Carl's Jr.'s burgers don't actually look that good when you get them, but gosh darn it, do they look good when they're filming those commercials, you know? So that's also a great thing to think about as well. Back to my questions here. So we talked a little bit about it, but what skills and attributes make students successful, or anybody really successful any age in your field?
Being on time, but even more so being early. That's the mark of preparedness. So a little thing called mise en place that you'll see in culinary arts, everything in its place. That doesn't mean just your equipment. That means you mentally. Did you prepare? Did you go ahead and read your assignment the night before, and so you're ready to go ahead and prepare it in class, or instead of just like coming in cold and expecting the instructor to give you the tools. So once again, it's about meeting halfway. So just be there early. I mean, be engaged, you know, be there, be present. That's the main thing. Also ask a lot of questions. The more engaged you are, the more somebody's going to willing to give you more. And that's kind of how it is in my class. You know, the more engaging students, those students that ask those critical questions is going to be the ones I gravitate towards, because it's like, okay, now you're at this level. I want to bring you up to this level. So once again, it's a give and take thing. I tended to be an introvert when, you know, I was in high school, but when I went to college, it's like, hey, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to go ahead and, since I'm paying the instructor, like, hey, so, you know, I could get right in there about 15 minutes early. Like, you know, Chef Smith, hey, can I talk to you after class? Because I wasn't getting that, you know, that pate en croûte yesterday that you was doing. So can we just talk about it? And sometimes they'd be like, yes, yeah, you know, I have something to do. But I'm like, hey, I'm paying for this education, so can you help me out? And more than likely, they're going to be willing to help you. So it's about persistence. And once again, it's just about, you know, having an open mind and being a sponge, absorbing all of those little tricks of the trade, right? Because every chef's going to tell you something different. And I would say, you know, they have to have a reason behind it, because every chef's going to tell you something different. It's on you to pick what's comfortable to you. As long as you get to the end result, that's all we really care about, you know, and you get there safely.
So speaking of safely, that's a great segue. Talk a little bit about the Serve Safe program. I know at least I believe that, say I was interested in culinary but didn't know where to start, I know that you can take classes and become ServSafe certified even if you're not a culinary student. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Thursday, I've been doing this, teaching this for about 14 years. Um, it's a National Restaurant Association program. It's nationwide. It's recognized through all 50 states. So next time you go to the airport, you go to some fast food restaurant, some corporate restaurant, look behind the counter, you're gonna see this Serve Safe Manager certificate because somebody in the corporate environment has to be Serve Safe certified. So basically, if you look at it, you look at the Oregon Food Handlers Test or the Washington Food Handlers Test. Those are very easy, and it makes me kind of leery how easy those tests are. It's just one of them things that, you know, if I could pass this without having any previous knowledge, how much do you really know? So that being said, this test is about 10 times more intense than that test. It's 90 questions, all multiple choice. But once again, my phone has been ringing off the hook to the point where I gotta go ahead and keep it off the hook because I can't teach all of these classes. You know, with COVID now, everybody's kind of getting back to basics, something that I've been teaching for 14 years. Now all of a sudden is being really relevant now. You know, washing your hands, you know, worrying about pathogens, you know, time temperature abuse, cross-contamination, all of that stuff is very important, but now it's on the forefront. So once again, this is a certificate that our students, you know, they leave with, actually they do it the first term, and we go through that for 12 consecutive weeks so they get that information embedded in their head, not just a one-time test where you're just gonna pass it and not go ahead and use this practical, use it in a practical application. So yeah, it's very important to me. I'm the only one certified at the school to do it. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm trying to get some people to go ahead and pass this test with 90 or better so they can go ahead and take this over from me. Yeah, I love doing it, but it's just one of them things, you can get people really sick really quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So that's something that we instill all the time. It's not just about food. Food is just a vehicle to have everybody together. But once again, that food has to be safe. You have a foodborne outbreak. Think about Chipotle, right? Think about Jack in the Box back in the 90s, right? That could be really detrimental to your business, and recovering from that could it could just be a death sentence if you think about it that way.
And you've been teaching it for 14 years, so you've seen a lot of change in, you know, back when we have, sure, we had like maybe a nut allergy, okay, that's, you know, or lactose intolerant. Now it's, you know, there's so many allergies out there. I would assume that, or at least I think that ServSafe would help address some of that, because you talked about cross-contamination and really the understanding of food handling and how that exactly works, because I've seen, you know, we've all seen the signs where it says this food might come in contact with, and I know that they're obligated to put those out, but it sounds to me like you could do yourself a lot of good being in a program that was able to be, you were able to be ServSafe certified because you really understood cross-contamination, and also, like you said, the pathogens and everything else that you don't think about are zinging around in the air while you're trying to deal with food.
Exactly. That's just one thing that we take literally in class. You know, especially when you talk about allergens. That's why we minimally process anything. You know, if you're making a chicken soup, we're making that stock from bones and aromatics and, you know, the mirepoix, right? So you're gonna know exactly what's in it. We do that because we want the student to understand how simple food can be, but also we want them to know exactly what is in each and every dish that they make in there. So when the customer asks, they're confident enough to be like, hey, no, that doesn't have peanuts in it because we only use soybean oil. You know, they're knowledgeable of that, and that's going to make the public a lot more safe and a lot more trusting in your business.
So looking back, you've talked a lot about what makes you successful. Thank you. What would be your one piece of advice looking back over your variety? Like you have quite a bit of variety in your career. You've done a lot of really cool things and experienced a lot of great businesses and teaching. What would be your one piece of advice for getting into the industry?
Just have passion. Have passion about what you're doing. Anything you do, right? You want to go ahead and, I consider myself a student, even though I'm an instructor. Every day I'm learning something different. And if I'm not learning something that day, then it's on me. It's my fault. So once again, if you get stagnant in anything, you might want to go ahead and look for a different profession. So yeah, that passion, that's key right there. And just, I don't consider myself, you know, I don't consider this a job for me. It's a lifestyle. So anything that I go ahead and do at home, I'm just going to transfer over to what I do in the kitchen. So once again, having that passion and integrity. And that's key in this industry, integrity, doing the right thing even when nobody's looking or you don't think nobody's looking. So it's just one of them things, you got to be, got to have that, because that's a key building tool to have a great team. And that's what it's all about. Some of the best restaurants I worked at, everybody works together. We may not hang out afterwards, but everybody has a job, a task, and everybody comes together and nobody leaves anybody behind, so that's kind of what you got to have, that passion, that integrity.
Great. You said that you have a student submission with, I believe, you making some gumbo that you wanted to share with us today. A little bit more information about the Clark College program, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Awesome.
So, it was just it was a video made by one of our students in the IT department, and she's actually an adjunct professor now. So once again, that's how this college is. You go take the classes, you got the interest, you have the passion, what she did, and now she's an adjunct instructor. So
that's awesome.
I'll go ahead and share that with you. I just need to disable so I could share it.
It says you should be able to share. Hold on. It says allow panelists to start video. It says you should be able to.
Let me try again. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah. Oh, screen. Well, no. Seconds. Let me try again. Okay, I'll just do what we did last time. I'm just going to make you host.
Okay.
And that way, there you go.
All right. Okay. Let's see if we can you see me? All right, can you see that screen?
Yep.
All right, good. Let's go ahead and start it.
Working with a team of chefs is awesome. Because it's not just chefs, it's educators. So I've worked in plenty of places where you have chefs, and the difference between a chef and a chef educator. A chef, right, they're focused on the job at hand. They have to do it no matter what. They have certain numbers they have to meet. There's a lot of other things that they have to do besides cooking, right? That being said, a chef instructor, we're here to teach. We're here to dispel myths about the industry, about course managing, throwing pans at you. I mean, that's not going to do anybody any good, right? So we're straight up with you. We're approachable. I love it. It's like a big think tank of culinary professionals. So once you look at it, it's students first, and that's kind of how we look at this program. Food secondary, but food is the model of how we're going to make that student successful in the food service industry. So we all share that philosophy right there. So every day it's not even like a job. It's just what we do. So it's an honor and privilege working here with so many people that care on the same level that I do. But yeah, like I said, it's not work. It's just something that we do on a daily basis. Gumbo is a stew. A stew contains anything that swims, slithers, crawls, flies, or walks. See anything you go ahead and catch, right? Tractor soup, that's all I call it. Another thing about this stew, it's got a lot of parallels, or the ingredients have a lot of parallels to the Pacific Northwest that a lot of people don't know about, right? So, Asian cuisine, right? You got the swamp, and you also have a lot of trappers out there, so fur trappers. So, what do they do? Instead of beavers, which are starting to kind of dwindle down the population, well, you go to Argentina and you introduce the nutria. And everybody thought, oh, nutria, that's going to be the best trapping thing, it's going to make the best helps, make the best fur, and then they figured out that that's something that a lot of people don't want. That being said, if you give it the basic species, you're going to see the nutria. They're pretty docile, they're easy to catch, right? You have a teeth, right? So the same thing, they introduced them up here to the Pacific Northwest for the first year. Back in the 90s, they had a marketing campaign saying nutria, the next white meat. Nutria sausage, nutria gumbo, all this stuff. They were course. Well, once again, I've seen a lot of those crawfish. We got a lot of crawfish up here. A lot of crawfish down there. So once again, it's all about extracting. Once again, we're not all different. Really think about the United States of America, right? It's all. I don't even like the word healthy body. I like if you post out healthy body, putting everything together, you don't know what's differentiated. Everybody needs their identity. I mean, it's post out. I want to see the spinach, I want to see the onion, I want to see the lettuce, I want to see the dressing, I want to see you all contribute. But to me, that's what a true American is.
And that was that right there. I'll stop it right there. Yeah, it's just I just wanted to show you a glimpse of you know, just the kitchen, how we actually move, how we teach. But yeah, that's just real time, it's real stuff right here, you know. Yeah.
We have 2 nutria at our duck pond, and I actually know people that have tried nutria. They say the backstrap is apparently amazing. And yeah, you're right. Ooh, are they invasive? And then I personally have made a crawfish fettuccine. It was crawfish fettuccine Alfredo. And you would be very proud. I actually made it from scratch, like whipped up the Alfredo with the whipping cream and the whole like thing. So it was more rich than I ever thought it could be. So yeah, I like your idea of the compost salad too, right? Like I don't want to see everything in the pot and be like, yay, it's there. I want to know where it came from and what contributed to it. So, Earl, you told me you'd be kind enough to share that gumbo recipe, which I will share on my next newsletter. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'll, no questions obviously today. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. Thank you for sharing that great video and the gumbo recipe. And maybe next year we'll get to hear from you again. So have a safe and healthy, happy holiday season.
Sounds good. You do the same. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.